How's it going, everyone? Welcome to the Single Barrel Club for the month of May. I got John Lee, and we also have a special guest, newly promoted, by the way, Mr. Dan Calloway from Bardstown. And we have an amazing ride to talk about tonight. Gentlemen, thanks for joining.
Awesome to be here. Cheers.
Yeah. Cheers, cheers. I have been waiting actually since I received the initial sample bottle. Lee had sent me the sample bottles. I selected them just from, a couple of months ahead, whatnot. And I knew that this was coming this month. When it came into the mail, though, I remember how much I loved it, but I wanted to save it for tonight.
Man, especially with this one, I am multiple bottles in. I mean, I am all about this release, and
very on brand,
and so stoked to be talking about this one tonight.
That's awesome.
Love that.
Awesome.
Oh man! Now, Lee, you want to talk about a little bit of while you were there selecting, bring us through the process of how you chose it and exactly what is this finished in? What can people expect on tasting notes and whatnot?
Yeah, and Dan, as we talk about the barrel, I'll toss it over to you just to talk about like the influence. But great selection last year. It was actually our very first with Bardstown, and one that I had been pining over for years. Finally got on the calendar, and we have a 95.5 rye, which a lot of people like is the quintessential rye for a lot of people. It's also the rye like people love to hate. I don't know why. It's one of my favorites. But this one then, after a 6-year run in that first barrel, 6 years of age, goes into a cherry wood and oak zebra barrel for a number of months. This one was a 12-month hit. And I think this just plays so well with that rye whiskey. I mean, Dan, tell us about these zebra barrels and kind of that approach for finishing for this rye.
Yeah, it's you made some excellent points, and I agree with everything you said as far as the 95.5. And what I wanted to do was differentiate our 95.5 rye profile. So I started hopping around to different cooperages and asking them, what do you have? What's your R&D project? What are you interested in? Because I was looking for a way to finish. 95.5, traditionally viewed a little more herbal, green, which I love in a cocktail, but as a sipper, I wanted to round out the finish. So I went to this amazing cooperage, West Virginia Great Barrel Company. And one of the operators was actually growing cherrywood trees and said, hey, have you thought about cherrywood? And cherrywood in whiskey, you rarely see, because the number one job of a barrel is to hold the liquid. And cherrywood is a little, it tends to leak, right? So you see it in the heads, Sakura in Japanese whiskey, rarely in American whiskey. What they came up with is a way to do a zebra barrel, alternate American oak, which does two things. When you alternate American oak and cherrywood, it one seals the barrel better, and then it dials back and tempers the cherrywood influence. So they did that. We sealed it. We started sending samples back and forth, little staves, and I drop them in, and I loved how it was going. The problem was rye is very tannic. When you sip a rye, it grips, sticks, all that right here. And when you double barrel in new wood and new oak, it accentuates that grip. So what they came up with a way to do was, instead of just toasting it with a flame, infrared light is dropped down into the barrel, slowly toast it. So instead of a 45-second flame, you have a 15-minute infrared toast. So you're getting all the wood sugar, all the sweetness, all the character, but you're not overdoing the tannins, and sometimes you get a bitterness on a double barrel. So this is our 95.5 rye, 6 years, about a year in the cherrywood, but it's a zebra barrel with an infrared toast.
And Dan, this is your first taste of this.
Yeah,
since it left the warehouse, right? So
yeah, we have an amazing team member, Brandon Smith, the Daily Dram, who coordinates so much for us, and he actually dropped this on my porch this morning. So I was excited to crack it when I got home.
I think one thing that so I'll give you real quick. I think on the nose for me, Lee, you had pointed it out maybe a couple months back, and I never really paid attention to it. And now I get it in a lot of whiskey since you brought it up, is like rose or rose water or whatnot. I think the nose on this is actually floral. Like it reminds me of a fresh bloom flower or something like that. It smells really nice. Tastes totally different though, in the best way possible. I would say definitely this is more of a, or it could be considered a bourbon lover's rye. It's very complex. When you were talking just now, Dan, about the way the infrared laser basically, instead of charring it, one thing I noticed, I don't get a lot of those burnt or nutty notes that you will from some distilleries. Instead, like you said, I think I pull flavor wise a lot of those burnt sugar notes instead versus barrel notes. It's really nice. It's pleasant.
Yeah.
What do you guys think?
Yeah, I think on the nose, what I really liked about this is you still get some of that essence of the rye, right? And for me, how this goes, it's like there's this little like subtle like grassy or more like hay note that's in there, along with those sugars you're talking about. Like I almost get like a ginger snap, like sugary, but still, I mean, I love ginger snap cookies, but
Same.
that it's that really nice balance of like some of that earthiness in a subtle way mixed in with some of that sweetness. And so that's a really nice way to come into a rye like this. This is actually one of those where I think you could really fool some people of like, what whiskey is this? They like, I don't think you would often get a 95.5 rye as the answer for this pour.
No, you're so right. And I think the floral characteristic, the ginger, the nutmeg really balance the herbal, right? So when you say, when I 95.5, I'm thinking mint, I'm thinking green tea right away.
Mm-hmm.
This has a sweetness. And then the crazy thing to me is when you get the sugar from that second barreling, this is 120.8 proof, right? It's really rounded and an approachable 120 proof whiskey, which is wild. Yeah.
What do you think, John?
So I have a couple of thoughts. They range across the board. I do agree with some of the things that you guys are saying. Lee, if I'm not mistaken, isn't Zebra Barrel your nickname from high school?
Totally. Yes.
I did. I thought I remember reading that in your bio.
What a deep cut.
And but the floral notes for sure, like I think that does elevate this too. Like I get a lot of this like apple blossom, being that I'm in New England and like trees are finally starting to wake up this week. It's a very familiar scent to me. So it's like really coming through as I like nose through the glass here. But like apple blossom and a lot of great like effervescent floral notes that kind of pop up. I don't know if for me that this would be misconstrued as like a bourbon drinker's rye or like a non-rye whiskey. Like this is for me like in a very good way through and through. This is a great finished rye. Like this is actually one of the few pours out there that I think sort of scratches that Midwinter Night's Dram itch, where that is such a unique pour of whiskey. And so many folks kind of gravitate to like this darker, jammier, fruity, floral kind of rye. And I don't know if that's folks who are just maybe a little bit averse to the spiciness of rye, but I feel like the balance of this is really cool, where you get these cool, sweeter, floral, almost fruity notes out of it, almost like a wine finish, really.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's very adjacent to a mild port finish, which it drinks really nice. It's very cool.
John, it's your spot. I had a conversation yesterday with the owner of Delilah's in Chicago. We said exactly what you just said, which is if you liked a wine finish or a sherry finished rye, this kind of emulates the fruit and sugar of that, but just with a natural wood finish.
Yeah.
Yeah, very much like a PX rye or something to that effect.
And don't fact check me on this, but an interesting thing they told me at West Virginia is cherry wood is the only fruit wood where the flavor comes off like the fruit it grows, right? So if you look at apple wood or anything like that, it's not going to have those notes. But cherry wood, it really does smell like cherry, which is wild.
Yeah, that's really
might
interesting.
be a question for like a barbecue pit boss type of deal. Like, those are the dudes who would know that type of stuff, right?
Right, they're using it. They're smoking for finish. Oh yeah, totally.
Yeah, for sure.
Now, as I put it on my single rock, John,
Here we go.
the single rock comes out. I will say more of your rye, like herbal tea, some of that mint, like definitely pops a lot more. Like as this opens up, you're getting a little bit more of that essence, which I think is really fun, where you can be like, wow, these actually are two very dynamic, different pours.
Yeah.
And that's a really fun way to experience whiskey, right? Because I think sometimes you're like, oh, it's a very like unilateral pour. Like what you see is what you get. You drink it the first time, you drink it on a rock, it's all the same. This one really changes its profile. And so that would be a really fun thing to just do with friends, which is like, okay, you've now had it, throw like an ice chip in there and see how that thing opens up. And man, it changes considerably.
One single ice chip.
If you're feeling bold, this makes the greatest Manhattan of all time.
I was about to ask.
Let's drill down on that. What are we putting in that for bitters?
Okay.
I'm a big bitters nerd. I want to know.
Okay. So bitters, you could, if you're going traditional, to me, it's funny. You're a bitters nerd. I start with the vermouth.
Okay.
You know, I go, if you're going to blend Carpano, if you want big, little Dolan, more herbal. Okay. Mix them if you want to get interesting. Find your vermouth blend, and then I'll do a dash of orange and a dash of Angostura.
Love that.
I've got enough flavor there, but would love to hear from you, John, of where.
Yeah, I love the orange call out. I'm big on the orange as well. I sometimes even go so far as to throw in a Lillet for instead of a straight vermouth, like a fortified wine.
Oh, cool.
And that's going to depend a little bit on what I'm doing. Sometimes I'll use like a Lillet Blanc for like a Kentucky head on or something if we're getting outside of Manhattan territory.
Yeah.
But I could see this work in if there are folks here who would probably know that I would say this, but a black walnut or even like maybe an Aztec chocolate in here, I think would have just enough of that dark background richness to really kind of kick this thing off the wall. That could be really cool.
Yeah, I know the Fee Brothers Aztec chocolate. I've used that a few times.
Oh man,
yeah, especially with the orange too. Like it's a great offset. You got to have both. You can't just throw one in there and call it good. You have to really play off them.
Fashioned, and it's.
I was about to ask that question because, like Lee, I know Lee does it, and I know quite a few people do it as well, where they'll drink it neat or have it neat, and then put a rock or put it on the rocks. I've been doing the thing where I get new bottles in, or I go out do some bourbon hunting, buy some bottles, take it back. Most of the time, I'm drinking it neat. However, I'll make like a good old fashioned, or like you said, I was going to ask you guys, what cocktail do you think would be best? But you answered Manhattan.
Well, I'm going to tell you guys, like whiskey 4 ways, right? So, like, I think if you're in this club and enjoying it, anything that we're picking, you need to do your whiskey 4 ways, right? So do it neat, throw a little water in there, put a little piece of ice in there with a new glass. Don't do it with the water one because you've already kind of diffused that out a little bit. And then make a cocktail with it. Like, see how the dynamics change and how you can play around with the whiskey. Man, I am such a big rye old fashioned person that I could see this playing really well. I agree, John. We've already talked about this. Like the black walnut bitters is always up my alley when I'm making a rye old fashioned. I've also recently done like rye with like a little bit brighter, like, so I've done a thyme simple syrup, so you get like, you know, like all of those all of that just essence from the thyme, and then I put that with lemon, so that as you're drinking that, it really opens up kind of some of those herbal notes, and it actually surprises you how much the influence of the thyme will change the whiskey. But that in an old fashioned, I think this thing would just blow up.
Yeah, awesome. I could see that for sure.
And thyme certainly with the rye, right? That's gonna
absolutely
perfectly.
So Dan, real quick too, congratulations, by the way, master blender over at Bardstown. How long ago did this happen? Like, and since then, I guess what have you been working on? Like, what's some exciting things?
Yeah, awesome. You know, I'm doing a similar thing now. My first, my first blend I ever did was Discovery No. 1, right? So I've been. What I'll say with Bardstown, and now the big change is Lofted Spirits, right? Which is we brought Bardstown Bourbon Company, Green River, and then our amazing custom distillation business all under the same umbrella. Right.
Okay.
There was a misconception that Bardstown owned Green River, which is just not true. We're two completely unique, awesome bourbon brands, and I'm fortunate to work on both of them, on the blending and then with our custom distillation from some our amazing partner brands. And it's just a gift, honestly, to work with the team. If there's one thing that Lofted Spirits has got right, and there's a few, but the main thing is we have hired the best people in bourbon. Everyone from our head of marketing to our head of operations to our compliance to our HR to our quality. It's just amazing individuals that have left, for a large part, left larger operations to come be a part of a growing team. So we just have that mindset of collaboration from the get-go. And I always say some of the biggest whiskey fans are in like the finance department. Yeah. And they can come and taste, or the sales team, and
love that.
They've got great ideas, and it's just such a gift to work with. We have an executive chef and a beverage director that their office is 50 yards away from mine, and we can talk about flavors and everything. It's awesome. It's just
I love that for you guys. That's such a cool dynamic to have, building such a diverse team with so many people with not just an interest in the business itself, but in the liquid, the quality of the flavor, and developing everything as you go. That's so cool.
Yeah.
Well, and I will say one thing that I discovered at House of Bardstown when you did those events last year is like your focus on really experimentation.
Oh yeah.
Exploration. We were talking about vermouth. I think one thing I tasted at House of Bardstown was like a vermouth finished bourbon, maybe 2 or 3. And I think that idea of maybe 4. No, there were other things, John, not just vermouth. But that focus on just innovating and staying fresh. And I think also knowing beyond origin, the collaborations that you all are creating have been just really fun and really celebrate both the whiskey and the collaboration.
Oh yeah. And that's the cool thing about Bardstown Bourbon Company is it's at this crux, this crossroads that I don't feel like another brand is at, where we are a small enough team where we can be agile and innovate and have this crazy off the wall idea and do it, like the Notre Dame Cathedral barrels, right? And it's like, yes, let's go buy them, let's roll. But have the agility, but be well funded enough and have a solid business model where we can finance a risk like that. There's plenty of teams that are small enough to do an idea. There's plenty of teams that can be well financed, but that sweet spot of agility and confidence and backing I feel like the luckiest person in the world. So yeah, I've got a few in the hopper that have gotten weirder, and a few that
love that
will come out this year.
So. And that leads into becoming Global Brand Innovator of the Year. I mean, tell us about just 2020. I mean, this year. I mean,
it was amazing. We were able our team went out to London, and we were there, and it was just, I feel like we've hit a couple of firsts, right? If I hear it's never been done, right? There's never been an Indian whiskey or American whiskey finished in Indian whiskey barrels, or the Notre Dame, or a myriad of things we've got in the hopper, right? We are an explorer brand at our heart, and we're just going to keep pushing, creating these innovations. But all that being said, we make some awesome Kentucky bourbon, right? And our core now that we have barrels that are 6 years old, 7 years old, our core profile is released, our Origin series, and that is just amazing classic bourbon profiles. So you got to have both.
So I got a quick question for you. 2 actually. One quick question, and then the second one you can let me know how that went. But first one, what is your favorite discovery?
Oh man,
I got mine.
It's always gonna be one. It's first thing I ever did for the company.
Okay.
There's one I love to. The early ones, it was a different time, right? It was there was so much 12 to 15 year Kentucky bourbon available. Our chef Stu, who's one of my favorite people in the world, is the chef at Bardstown Bourbon Company. He he led the way with Discovery 4, which is always going to be a favorite of mine. And for me, 11 really is a sweet spot.
That's mine. Yeah, that's mine.
I love it.
It's so good. I love 11. I'm on probably my 4th or 5th bottle now of it. It's really good. And then my next question, one of the best pours that I've ever had, not just from Bardstown, but like ones that are just so memorable where I'd have to really sit down and create a list, but I think it would probably be in the top 10 I've ever had, was Doisy Dane. Did you have anything to do with that?
Yeah,
you did.
Baby, yeah.
Okay, yeah. That bottle, you got to tell us about
that was 10 barrels total. Wow. So it was a Sauterne finish. The Sauterne came over, filled with the bourbon blend, and then it was beautiful, but it was very grape forward, very like huge grapefruit, and it just needed a bottom. And so new toasted oak for only about 6 weeks on the 3rd barrel, just to give it this spice. I love that one because our creative team, they took imagery of the vineyard in Sauterne and put it on the back glass. It was just sold at our distillery. 10 total barrel. That is to me the sleeper of
yeah. I've only got to taste it. I didn't know about it.
Man.
Just a buddy of mine. I don't know how he got it. Maybe he was at the distillery. He brought over a pour of it one night from the bottle, and I was like, easily my favorite Bardstown product, but one of the top 10 pours I've ever had.
I agree, man. I agree. Let me. How often do you get to Kentucky?
I've only been once.
Hit me up. I've got a bottle. We can crack it, and it'd be fun. That's one of my favorite things I've ever done, for sure.
That's awesome.
Dan, if you're not busy in 2 weeks, we can make Kanan really jealous.
Please. I always say that, Brandon taught me they taste better when they're open, right? So come by, we'll crack.
Damn right.
I love sharing that one. Only 10 total barrels. I don't know where all the bottles are, but they're hard to find.
Yeah, that's awesome. I've never seen one.
No, they're great. So a lot of and we've done everything from 3 barrels to large projects, and we'll keep innovating. And then on the flip side, Green River, we're gonna start pushing there and seeing what we can create with that brand. Obviously, the weeded, the foolproof, the bourbon, and the Green River Visitors Center. This is amazing. It's opening in about 2 weeks.
Oh, awesome!
Very cool.
4 doors down from us in Louisville on Main Street. Yeah. Is the Green River Tasting Room. And think about that. People don't really make it to Owensboro, right? Yep. They don't get that chance to connect with the brand. Highly recommended if you have the time. We've brought some of the equipment, the signage, all those classic touches, right, from a distillery back to 1885. And we're opening on Main Street just a couple weeks.
Well, and I mean, that brings up another great point. I mean, you have really replicated the Bardstown experience in downtown Louisville. I mean,
right here.
That spot is just absolutely gorgeous and gives you a beautiful taste of what is actually out in Bardstown.
Totally.
I mean, the team has locked that in. I can only imagine that one's so locked in. If Green River's even close to that, I mean, perfect.
Green River will have some surprises. John Cecil, Bourbon Goggles on Instagram is the king there. He runs both the Louisville tasting room and the Green River tasting room. And that staff, I'm such a fan of them. They do such a fun job. It was built, both of them are built where you can just walk in, right? That was the whole premise is you're coming from Louisville Slugger, you're coming from another distillery, you can just walk in, amazing service, cocktails, neat pours, maybe take a tasting experience, just accessible, but beautiful bourbon across. So those are my, if I'm in Louisville, I'm hanging out at one of those 2 spots.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
If we can touch on 2 points on this barrel.
Yeah.
I mean, one, where do you find that range for finishing? I know this is a 6-year barrel.
Yeah.
Where is and I know you're only getting older now, but is there a sweet spot for you as you're looking at rye and bourbon in finishing? And then the second question is, I know there was a range of barrel finishing. So I believe when we selected, there was a 6-month finish.
Yeah.
And we ended up with the 12-month finish. I mean, do you also kind of have a sweet spot, or do you kind of like how both of those explore different aspects of the whiskey?
Yeah. I think this one, so I have rough preliminary ideas about how things are going to age. right? But I've been wrong so many times. Things I thought were going to be 2 years were 2 months. It's crazy. Our Foursquare rum finish was a 24-month finish because the barrels they were going to ship, and it was COVID, and they were sitting in Barbados and they couldn't leave. So they got a little drier than you would like. So it took longer. So then it's 24 months. We've done cognac where it was just drenched with flavor, and it ended up being a 6-month finish. This one with 12 months, I think leans, and I love that it leans this way, but it really leans into the floral and the cherry wood, and all those notes are certainly pronounced, but in a really beautiful way. So if I was tracking this, I would say you're in the sweet spot. Time to pull it, right? I've seen these. If they go further, people ask me what happens if no one picks it. It's 2 years. Then that we put it in the mix.
Sure.
Or I might just put a little X on the barrel, or like amazing. I like it. If you want the potent concentrate, it's the beautiful thing about single barrels is they're so personal, and it's not so much what's right or wrong. It's what you're looking for in a flavor.
Sure.
I've sat on so many picks where I'm the outlier. I'm like, I love this one, right? And it's okay. It's just opinion in a lot of ways, So long story short, no set month time frame on any of these. It's just where the flavor goes, and I think 12 months is the perfect spot for this one.
This is a killer one. I think the floral is what I'm really digging the most out of this personally. It's just, I don't know, I guess different. I'm even looking behind me, like most of the ryes I have, this is a standout. It tastes different than the typical rye that I have on my shelf, for sure.
It does.
In the
you
best
don't
way.
have something like this, which is exactly why for me it sort of was so reminiscent of the High West Midwinter Night's Dram, because that stands sort of on its own in that there aren't many rye blends out there finished in port the same way. So like just like in a totally on paper way, there's not a lot like it. There are things that are sort of reminiscent of it because there'll be a whiskey finished in port or whatever, like different wine finished whiskeys. It may be close, but this in terms of uniqueness also stands up to that. Like you don't have another thing like this on the shelf. So having a bottle of this is double cool because A, it's good whiskey, but B, you don't set this next to two other things, be like, hey, try these things next to each other because they're similar. Like this is like in its own weight class here.
And that was always my original sales point when I was doing picks with these is you could go on the back bar and hide this bottle anywhere. And if there were no labels, you could find it, right? You can find this flavor. There's not another one like it. Purely
this thing stands out.
Yeah. Another thing too that maybe y'all can help me. Maybe I need to find it on my own. I don't know. But for me, when I'm tasting, let's say talk Wild Turkey, for me, dusty. Like that's what I know when I'm drinking a turkey product. That's their flavor profile. With Buffalo Trace, a lot of times they'll have that cherry, very sweet. Jim Beam's nutty. Like I know what a Jim Beam.
Totally.
I'm starting to taste Bardstown's getting their flavor. Like I know that it's Bardstown distillate nowadays. Whenever I drink it, I just don't know exactly what it is. But I'm just saying, kudos and congrats because there is like a taste of something like Bardstown in every single bottle I have now.
There's
it's pretty
a signature to it, is what
it
you're
is.
saying.
That's what it is. There's a signature taste to Bardstown juice now.
That's so funny because I was like in the completely opposite ballpark where I'm like, I just keep getting surprised by new releases that I don't know if I don't know if I know that tenor yet.
Same.
Because I continue to experience kind of the creativity of the brand. And maybe if we get through a few origins that are like, maybe a little bit like very similar. And I really start to kind of like focus in on what that is. But I think the fun part about Bardstown is like, there's a consistency of quality.
Definitely is.
But then the mindset or the approach for every release I've had is just very different. And so I know that the foundation is going to be incredible. So I know that wherever that foundation's going is going to be fantastic. And I think that once you get into a few of, especially the collabs, you just kind of say like, man, the whiskey's already incredible and it's amped up by the collaboration. with different origins, it's the same way where you're just kind of like, oh wow, like the essence shifts quite a bit. I don't know if I've locked that in yet. I maybe need more Bardstown. I gotta go back and just keep drinking. So
well, you nailed it. The core profile will be defined by the Origin series, right? And then eventually a 10-year, right, or a 12-year estate distilled by us, and we're getting there, and we're still finding it. But our heart and what will never leave is the spirit of innovation, collaboration, and transparency. Right? That we innovate, we create all these cool things, we collaborate with amazing partners. But the coolest thing, when you come on site or something like this, we can tell you everything about it. No smoke and mirrors. We tell you exactly what's in the liquid right there.
Every time.
Love that.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah, I love that too. Well, I think with that, if any of you have some closing remarks, this was awesome. Thank you so much, Dan, for taking the time. I know you're a busy man. For getting on here talking about this great pick. Lee, thank you for picking a killer barrel. I got the samples in, and I was just so stoked that we were going to have this for the month of May. Yeah, John, thanks for joining us as well. This was a good week. Good month. Make sure you stay tuned for what's coming next month. Good week, I wish, right?
Yeah. Great new week, everyone. Man, Dan, thanks again. Just incredible to have you on, and man, keep innovating. And one thing I will say, your team is second to none.
They're the best
in whiskey. Like, I just think that you have assembled the group has assembled just a great range of personalities that are incredibly passionate about what you're doing. And it shines in the bourbon. It shines in the whiskey because, I mean, the end result kind of screams that passion. So
awesome.
I can't wait for what's next.
Thank you guys. And who made this pick? This is a great pick.
Thank you.
Yeah, Lee.
Yeah.
Nice job.
Yeah, it was actually me and my mom. So
okay.
Yeah, my mom came out for a few days. It was
Good
like
job,
bring your mom to work day. And she started out, she was like, don't pour me anything. Don't pour me anything. And then she was like, well, if they're in front of me, I might as well smell them.
And then she's picking. Yeah.
And then she was like, well, this one smells very good. I'm going to taste it. And then we picked together. So
it's awesome.
Boom.
What a cool story.
You converted mom into a whiskey drinker. So
one at a time. It's awesome. Yeah. Well, thank you guys. It's appreciate all you do, and I hope do a pour of this with you in Kentucky sometime, or I'll come out your way.
Hell yeah!
Great.
Cheers.
Awesome.
Cheers, man.
Have a good one, guys.
Cheers, everybody.
Yep. You too.